Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would show a couple things. Now I did intend on working on some track parts, and I think I might do that in a little bit here. But there's a bunch of stuff that came out, and I wanted to show that stuff. And it's made by mostly different authors, or and some really cool stuff. So I just has to do with Helios and Helios modules and things like that. So. And then I did kind of complete the interior of this ship. I've been doing a little bit more tweaks on it. I have yet to test this in game yet. We're trying to get enough CPU power to make this thing operate, and that's been it's taken a little bit. But yeah, I do want to try to get this in game, get it in some combat, see how it does, see if there's some vulnerabilities or something I need to work out yet. It's very possible. Um, so yeah, it will get there. But first, I wanted to show you some really cool creations here. To start with, Garaman has now released a 6-bay version of the Helios, both for Vanilla and Reforged Eden. They are in the Helios collection. I'll link that again to the video description. So basically, pretty much the same ship. It's like exactly like the one we're using in the game right now. Pretty much. Couple of little tweaks and features on it, but it's basically a 6-bay version of the Helios. Now I've got the Helios I put out over here, and the difference is these bays here. Basically, these center sections were removed, and one extra bay was put in place, and I believe it comes out to almost identically on the cost of the ship and size of the ship. It's just like one of these bays is like half the size of one of these bays, so that's kind of why it worked out pretty good. So yeah, it's another Helios 6-bay version. Does not support the small modules, which I do have some of those to show. A couple new ones. Well, yeah, you get the idea of how this is all working out. And it's got a couple new things in here. Where was that again? There was like a. Oh, I'm in the wrong ship. Let's look at the 6-bay version. Um, yeah, it has a little indicator here on like your fore and aft of the ship too, because it can be a little confusing. You know, when you're walking down the central corridor, there's not any distinguishing things. Sort of maybe the labels, if you're paying attention to the numbers of the bays, like it's going to start with bay one, which would be on the front of the ship. Um, but sometimes, you know, when you're walking down this corridor, it's like I would go the wrong way, thinking, "Oh, that's the front of the ship," when really it's that way. Just not paying attention. So this is to help a little bit. Actually, see, I'm backwards. Yeah, yeah, this is okay. So Bay 1 would line up with that. So yeah. Anyway, very cool. And the thing is I kind of like egged Garaman to put this out because the situation is when I built this Helios, these bays, you know, I wasn't really anticipating needing like six module bays originally. I thought, you know, and I didn't know what to do with this area necessarily. It was kind of like a filler, and then I was like, well, maybe we can get something to dock here. And I played around with that, and it didn't really work out too well. But you know, I went through and I released the ships anyway. Maybe I should have like just removed that and cut that from the original design. But you see, at the time, there was already people making modules for it, and I couldn't just be like, sorry guys, sorry to waste all your time trying to make modules for this. I'm gonna just cut that out of the design. Words escape me. But yeah, I didn't, and I really couldn't do it at that point in time. And I desperately wanted to get a 6-bay version out, but I didn't want to do it under my name because it was like another, you know, 2 more releases of the same ship and this and that. And it's like, well, not exactly the same ship, a modded version, you know, a slightly different layout version of the ship. And I was like, I didn't want to do that too. So Garaman did it, and I really appreciate it. We're actually using a slightly older version of this 6-bay module in the game. It's very practical with the standard size modules. But here's the thing: there's quite a few modules now made for these smaller bays as well. So it all depends what you're going to be using. To start with, well, before I even do that, let's take a look at this other completely unique ship, and this is the Aurora. Um, and this is by you. Why do you want to know? um, and this is cool. So it's a size class 8 ship, so it is definitely smaller than the Helios. Size class wise, by Helios is size class 14, I believe. So this one is quite a bit smaller, but it is a Helios module carrier type. So basically, it has 4 of the mount bays over here. So you can put one on the front. So you got module 1, and then you got 3, 4. Well, basically, yeah, all around the ship, you've got 4 different standard size module docking bays. And it's got the guide markers on here. Just the same as before, so it shouldn't be any bit different docking things to this ship versus the other one. Has a lot of the styling and characteristics, like some of these like swing arm parts are used in a different way, going over the side. I think it's got a really cool looking flight deck. I like these stairways that kind of go down into here. That's slick. It's also rocking some solar panels. Nice big flight deck on it. Cool shape and design pattern on it. Kind of gives me it's different, but a little bit of God, what is the name of that one Star Trek ship? Probably doesn't look like it anyway. I can't think of it now. It was in Deep Space Nine. It was their fighter, smaller Star Trek ship. Had a cool name to it. Cool looking ship. But yeah, this, I don't know, for some reason it just has, maybe it's just the overall shape when you take a look at it or something. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But I think it's very, very cool. And this is in the Helios collection now. And interior wise, here, let's do the whole lighty thing too. So this has a couple new features, like it has the new long range radar built into it. Like the Helios one on the workshop does not have that in their stock. I mean, I'm sure you can add it somewhere, but yeah, it doesn't. This was something that came out after the fact when those ships were made, so kind of a new part. So inside you got the same like docking bay module signs. You have the same idea where you have a front hangar, and then you have a like a central corridor to load vehicles into. Well, actually, no, it doesn't look like it supports a dropship module, but basically I think this one's probably set up to just maybe get down to the ground. So it looks like we got a couple of the big XL thrusters here and a couple large thrusters there. And it'll probably be lighter. Let's see, I just want to check a couple other things on this too. I'm kind of like looking at this. I looked at it real briefly right before this video, so I'm just trying to see. It looks like it's okay. So hardened steel. So it's made out of the same material as the Helios. So yeah, cool. It's kind of like a smaller, probably less expensive version, I would imagine, due to its size. But still pretty big. Still size class 8. It's not like anything small. Doesn't look like it has any weaponry on it whatsoever. Which would probably also keep the cost down. If you keep this out of harm's way, you'll probably be all right. So comparatively speaking, not looking at everything specifically, but 23-hour and 30-minute build time versus the stock Helios has a 30-hour and 30-minute build time. So it's less money. It's a smaller footprint ship, could probably be allowed to use on more servers because of that, depending on what the server size class limitations are. Now the server that we're playing on has been size class 15, so that's, I wanted to make sure whatever I built for this type of thing was 15 or under, basically. I think it's 15. Maybe it's 16, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't as big. But this looks very, very capable. It looks like you could still dock some pretty good size CVs on here. You could run 4 modules of the full size module bays. bring HVs, SVs, load them, like, like, yeah, that's cool. You can drive them right off the sides or through the back or whatnot. Also, it looks like it's set up a little bit better for explodey stuff. Like I've noticed, like a lot of these central parts are all behind like a big glass wall over here. Um, Probably helps a lot with explodey damage mitigation, I guess you could say, and generators and fuel tanks and everything kind of behind the glass. Um, that does help. You know, if it gets into a situation of combat. Kind of dig this medical thing too. I like these signs turned up on the angle like that on the using the glass railings as like a backing board on that, and I think that looks pretty slick. Really does. And we've got our flight deck. Oh, crew quarters. So hold on, I haven't been up here yet. So let's take a look at the crew quarters. Oh yeah, look at all this up here. And you got a view down to your shield. Wow, yeah, it's got a lot of stuff up here. It keeps going. Holy smokes! And then it looks like up to the front room, up to wow, yeah, it's got a neat configuration on that. And so it's I didn't even realize this whole area up here existed yet. But then yeah, then again, like I said, I'm kind of touring the ship for the first time myself here too. I mean, really touring it. Um, Very cool, very cool. But this is on the workshop. It's in the Helios collection. It's another oh, quantum core room too. Nice. I don't doubt you can upgrade this stuff. Bridge. Hold on, I gotta check. Oh, bridge behind a blast door. Oh, check this out. Constructor. Repair. Fridge. So you got a lot of basic stuff here. Looks like, yeah, with all the glass and stuff too, it looks like it's more protected against damage, and probably the Helios is kind of, you know, it's got a shield, you know, and it depends on that shield, and it has a few turrets, not a lot, and you know, mainly it was just meant to deal with if you got ambushed by, you know, a couple, 2, 3 drones or something like that. I'm pretty sure the shield would not allow the damage to take place to the ship, and hopefully the turrets on there would take out the drones. And that's if you didn't take any action yourself, like jump in the ship and shoot the drones manually. But no, very cool creation. I really dig this. Nice design, different take on the Helios, but it's got, you know, it's kind of like mimicking a lot. Well, it's got a lot of the, you know, the same function and everything like that. It kind of looks like some of the parts might have been used from the Helios to assemble this one, but it's totally unique and totally different. And maybe it was completely built from scratch that way too, and not copy and paste. I couldn't really tell you. But it's very, very cool. I dig it. I dig it. So I wanted to show you that one. Obviously, very happy with this these 6-bay modules for both things. Are right over there from Garmin. Now, Alicia has just been kicking butt on modules. Let me get some daylight again. And I got a new one here from Alicia. And this one is one of the smaller module bays. Now, sorry it's on the ground here. In creative mode on the planet, I guess I selected the arid planet in Reforged Eden. The gravity is at higher than usual. Actually, what is the gravity? 1.53. And now this is probably a space only, well, yeah, I would say a space only sensory defense for the Helios that would go into one of those smaller bays. So it's not designed to come down on the planet like it is, and this planet has higher gravity. So basically, I spawned it and it fell to the ground, but it's not, it wouldn't do that in space. Oh, this is cool. Oh, just quick. How this would dock into the ship is you would see this facing. So these buttons are like right here to like activate the weapons real quick and the thrusters real quick. And obviously, if it's docked to the Helios, the weapons won't work. But if it's undocked, you would obviously hit the switch, and then the weapons will fire without a player in the ship, is provided it's just sitting in the area of the Helios somewhere. Or yeah. So inside here, it's It's pretty small. It gives you your cockpit, so you can dock it and undock it. Obviously, the nature of the skinny design kind of really forces you to put parts closer together. There's not really any options for that. You can't have them like you can't have this wider than what the docking bay is, and you got to leave that block gap on each side too, or at least one of the two sides. But if you leave it on one of the two sides, it off centers it so it won't dock evenly to the door. So you got to kind of leave it off on both sides. So you have to compress everything, and it makes it a little cumbersome to do. So I'm sure this took a lot of engineering skills here to pull this one off. And speaking of that, I want to go dock this up to the Helios, and if I can. I'm not sure if I can. Oh, I might have had to do this in space. Yeah, well, maybe I can get up there. Yeah, I didn't realize this planet had higher gravity and stuff. So, yeah, this wouldn't be an issue if it was used properly. But since I did it on the planet for the better lighting, damn it, I can't get you up there. Ah, can I? What if we pull straight back? No, it doesn't look like I. Yeah. Ah, but okay. Well, I might have to respawn that in space and with another Helios in space. But basically, it's set up to dock into these bays, and that front section would be visible from here. Like, say, if you docked into this bay. Now, there was possibly a bit of a problem with the docking bays on this, too, on how close this was to the thruster wall here on one side. Like, this bay here doesn't have that issue. Where this one does. So if you come in and you dock it here, it's really, really tight on the one side. It makes it like, I believe you can still dock it. It just, you got to be like, almost you want to come in a little bit to the left of the position icon there. And these don't necessarily work right either because you fly kind of through it. You have to keep on pulling forward to the bay. It's basically some design flaws I had on the Helios with these bays here. They never really were fully fleshed out like the regular module bays got done because of the size and restrictions in the bar that I had here. There's a lot of things that hampered those bays. That's kind of why I do appreciate the 6-bay version. But I also, I mean, if you don't need more than 4 modules plus a dropship module on here, which is quite a lot of stuff, really. You can put this into more dangerous space and have these things and deploy these near the ship, which would hopefully blast anything that tried to mess with it, especially like drones and stuff like that. Obviously, you'd probably want to even take some more action if you had like some big nasty enemy capital vessels coming in at you. But I think they would be tied up working on these things for the most part, and you would give you a lot of time to take action yourself on whatever you found. Jump in a combat CV and start shooting or try to fly away or whatever. So very, very cool there. Now here's another one of the small modules, and this one is here. Let me take a look at the specs here. This is by Belvedere, and this is the Helios Mini Store RE. So basically, what this is running here, let me take a look at some. We have a container controller of 320K, a lot of container controllers of 320K. So basically, it is a storage ship. It's rocking solar panels, and it fits into one of the small bays, and it's running 6 320K storage systems in it. So that's pretty slick, getting that in one of those other bays. So the stock Helios can technically support up to 4 of these thin modules, 4 of the big modules, and 1 of the dropship modules. So that's literally 9 modules that you can pop on here. And when you have something like this that can mitigate some storage for its size, like six storage bays, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty cool. And combined with like a defense module, and there's a couple other defense modules. Alicia also built a full-size module that's also about combat and attacking POIs on the ground. It's called the Seminole module, I believe. That's also in the Helios collection. Um, but yeah, I just want to take a look at some of this stuff. I mean, this all came to be pretty quickly. So I'm just like, wow, check this out. This is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm always keeping an eye out for more modules. And sorry, sometimes I I haven't had a huge amount of time with Empyrion or to check in Discord and stuff. So I've been popping in like every couple days, trying to see, look for updates and get caught up on messages and stuff like that. So if I didn't respond to anybody right away, I apologize for that. It's I probably should check that every day at least, at this time. So my plans on things is, well, here, let's go to low lighting again. I don't think I showed this in one of my videos. We did spawn this ship in to our Reforged Eden gameplay. I haven't done much different with this version. I did start replacing some more Xeno block textures with combat, or Xeno blocks with combat steel. When I kind of when we first showed it, like stuff like this, right? I hate this. I hate what's going on here. And I had that same thing going on this front wall here too, where I had Xeno blocks in these locations here, and it didn't match the stuff over here. And the only thing I could really texture them with is this black wire stuff, and it just didn't look good, you know. So I keep on having to bite the bullet for visual things, to put in combat steel instead of this stuff in places. And I'm probably going to pull these blocks here too, because I hate how that looks. I got the same thing going on up over here across the whole top. The reason why I kept that Xeno and didn't worry about it too much is because it's visually out of the way for the most part. You don't see it if you're walking in the ship normally. But I still know it's there. It still bugs me. I hate it. And why I complain so much about Xeno, like, let's get out a tool here. Here is our Xeno textures, the only textures you can put on Xeno. It literally, you know, what do you use with this? I mean, there is no, like, I can't just put in like a flat metal texture or something, or even just a plain texture. There is no such thing as that in Xeno. There's this thing, which I found that, I guess you can color that, but see, if you try to go dark with it, like if it, here, I do have this ship saved, so let me just, I'm gonna do something here. We're gonna copy that, put it here. We're just gonna make it like a straight black, and we'll paint that. I guess it does paint straight black. Huh. Might have just found a solution to some of these problems. Didn't realize that would work quite that way. Let's up it a little bit. And oh, see, that's the weirdest thing. Like, this is the problem I've had with a lot of these Xeno textures too, is the coloring. Like you've seen it. Like right now, it's like kind of like off-white, right? It's really bright, but it's being painted with this color texture. But if I take this texture, or this color, and I make it straight black, which didn't look much different from what I just had, it actually seems to paint that color. But if I just try to make this a little bit more gray by adding, you know, just raising this up just a little bit, which it's almost visually looks about the same, then it comes out looking like that. So it's like I don't get what's going on with some of these textures, and that's not the only one that behaves that way. Like this thing here, like I'm painting this with black, it comes out green. Right here, let's turn on a light. If I paint it with blue, it comes out green. If I paint it with my orange, it comes out like orange. I can't even describe what, like I just painted it magenta, but it's still the other color. If I paint it red, it kind of works. Um, so this is why I thought a lot of these textures were uncolorable, because I tried to color them before and nothing would happen. But it seems like they only can use certain colors at certain intensities or something. I can't really describe it, but they don't use the colors that you paint them. It's like some random color. Like, I don't know what's. Some of them work and some of them don't. Um, if I wanted to make that nice and dark, I guess you can make it kind of dark, but then it's green again. It's just weird. It's very hard to explain what's going on. I guess you'd have to just play with it for a while. And like this one here, I thought this would, no matter what you did, was just going to be this white color. I didn't realize if you went straight 100% pure black, it actually would paint that color or some of these other colors. Um, oh wait, now it's not black like it was. Wait a minute. That's, oh wait, oh, that's because I upped the intensity. Straight black. Okay, straight black is straight black, which this might give me an option to cover up some of this wire mesh crap that's all, in places. And I hate it. This is why I complain so much about the Xeno texture palette. This one I typically don't use because of the white line problem. It usually, like, the texture itself is alright, but this stuff here, no matter what color you paint it, is going to be like this really bright color, and that doesn't work with literally anything I typically make. Um, this one kind of looks alright, and I have used this texture on some of the Xeno blocks over here. Obviously, I do use this stock default on some Kreil creations. These over here are crazy, just crazy. Can't really do anything with that unless I was trying to make a cocoon or something. I don't know. This one's interesting, but I don't really have a place for it even on a Kreil ship, so I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of it. I don't like this texture again because of the white lines. That's why I typically never use this. This one's really bad again because of the white lines. And then, there's only so much of this texture you can handle. However, that's another option too. If this was just painted black, you don't see that emblem stuff very much. So I'm starting to think of a little idea, because I'm not done finalizing this interior and tweaking, and I still haven't added the LCDs. But basically, my issue now is I got grievances with a lot of the places that I put Xeno in. And I knew I would. It's kind of what happened to me when I was building the Kreil interfector. Is after, with the 2/3 Xeno ratio, I just sort of like, I kind of gave up visually on it after a while. It was just like I was so disgusted by what I had to do with the Xeno stuff that I sort of like, man, there's no way I can make this ship. If it's built out of Xeno, there's no way I can be happy with it visually. I mean, yeah, it works good in the game, and Xeno's the best material you can build stuff out of for combat stuff and whatnot. But uh, man, if you just don't like what you make, you kind of lose interest in making it. It's so that, man, you know, I like I even like the concept of Xeno in the game. An alternative material. I want, the more the better. I want content, and I see exactly the direction they're going in. And I think that the guys on Reforged Eden cannot change the palette of this texture. They probably do not have the tools to do that. That would have to be a dev thing. Um, and I just fear it would just never happen. So we're always going to be forced to use, at least in Reforged Eden, maybe in vanilla, um, this hideous like Xeno texture set. And there's a lot of pressure, especially if you're like working on combat CVs, to build it out of Xeno because it's lighter. Not so much the strength of it, which is almost the same. It's just, if this thing was entirely Xeno, it would be a third lighter. It would be faster. It would turn better. Um, and it would be, well, slightly stronger, but it would look like utter crap. And I don't want to release it that way. So what I have seen, at least when we were touring, taking a look at everybody's setups in the server when we did that this last Sunday, I've noticed that a lot of people, the people that are interested in that, they know how to convert ships to Xeno, and they did to a lot of ships. So there's a bunch of these black Xeno ships floating around that you could tell what kind of ships they were prior, based on the shape and stuff, and they're probably modded and converted to Xeno. So people can do it. It's just as an author, I don't want to. I lose interest in building. I don't want to build stuff that looks like that. It's just that, I want, the golden rule to me, and I've said this before, the holy grail of building is building something that looks good and works well. Because of Xeno, if you were to build like a base material creation out of Xeno, it's really not going to look good. It's not going to look good to the standards I would like to make things. And therefore, it fills one of my two like primary goals when I build something. It might function well, but it doesn't look good anymore, and I just don't want to do that. But the people that do know how to switch a ship over using the console commands to Xeno, and can like try to dress up the texture. Because like if this ship was entirely switched over, it'd be entirely hideous. All the texturing, the coloring, everything would be gone. It would be this. It just looked bad. You'd have to try to paint it the best you could with the Xeno palette of things, and it's never going to look anything close to what it looks like now. So that's a big grievance I have with Xeno blocks, is the texture palette. Well, it's really the only grievance I have. I don't mind the mechanics of everything else about it. It's just that texture palette. And yeah, I don't anticipate trying to do much more with Xeno. Like if I can hide Xeno, behind walls where you don't see it or something like that, that's great. I can use that here and there, but even a lot of times that's iffy. Like little issues inside the interior again that I've got is like, okay, I converted all those, but I left this one block Xeno because I could get away with using that one Xeno texture here. But look what happens on the bottom. Like all this is painted like this, but here we go, I can't paint this one to match it because that block is Xeno. So all they can really do is switch it over to combat steel, which makes the ship a little bit heavier again. Stuff like this too. But I'm going to try a couple of those other Xeno textures to the flat ones with the pure black, I guess, and try to paint it that way and see how it comes out. And that kind of stuff. So I decided to just wait till next week before I was going to start something with a HV track, and that's why I've got a couple things out here spawned. And what I was doing here is I wanted to build a starting gate first, but I wanted to test the limits of structural integrity. So if you hit N on the key, if you're new to the game, you have this N on the keyboard, and we'll bring up this debug menu, or this building and debug menu for your symmetry, copy paste stuff, and also different options. One of these different options here is show structural integrity. And when you do that, it actually works in creative now, which I'm very happy about. In the past, it didn't work very well. It does now though. So essentially speaking, this would be considered like a foundation block. It's touching the ground. It's the only block here that's actually touching the ground. And then I was basically measuring how many blocks from this center point can you go out before it gets too critical and collapses. And basically, this is the limit. So as it turns redder and redder, and this will still be intact, but this is its limit. So if another block was to be added here, it's bright red. In actual gameplay, this would collapse. And if you try to build out from the sides of this, this would also collapse. Like here, this would be good, but it's the total number of blocks in a row from that, and it doesn't matter if it's going straight across or if it bends in. Like, this one's still safe yet, and this next one should be safe yet. But the one after that, because it would be the same count over here, will be bright red, and this would again collapse. So this is the limits. It's just something to know if you haven't messed with it. This only it has to do with ground bases only. So this does not matter on CVs or space stations or any other kind of creation. Just ground bases that you have to deal with the structural integrity. And it's not that big a deal. It's kind of a fun little mechanic, but it will limit you to how big of a span or space you can have on a ground base, like ceilings without support beams. But you can support this stuff. Like over here, if I were to run a couple blocks right down to the ground here, is it going to update? I guess it's not going to update. Maybe it's not entirely bug-free. Let me turn that off and back on again and see if it recalculates it. Nope. Well, it should have updated. It should have now registered this as a foundation block and switched all these, and this should be practically all green. And it actually would stand up now, but it doesn't look like this part here is updating. I don't know how to force it to update. Maybe if I exit out of the game and came back in or something. But that's weird. So I guess it's not entirely good yet. I thought it was. I got excited. In the past, when I tried this, a lot of times it would just show everything in like all green. So I had no idea on structural integrity. But I guess once you know the numbers, you know, like what is the block limit? In this case, it is, I believe, 14 blocks from center point. So 15 total if you count your center. 14 blocks out at any which angle. So you could go 8 blocks that way, and you could go like another 6 blocks this way, and it should still stand even though this is the only support beam. And yeah, that's good yet. That's actually still good yet. That is still good yet. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, technically 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and collapse. That's weird. I didn't expect those results either. So it's not apples to apples. It seems like when I went this way more, even though it's unsupported, oh, you know what? It updated this. It updated this now. That's why I'm getting the different results. Maybe it just took time, or maybe I had to add another block to it for it to assess the situation. Okay, so now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 collapse. So yeah, okay, it does work the way I thought it was. It just screwed me up because the extra pillar kicked in, and it reassessed the structural integrity after I added those blocks. And now now it worked. Why didn't it work the last time? You know, I don't know. But anyway, so on ideas for a racetrack, it would be basically, rather than building a big creation, like I've seen like Spans make a really cool racetrack in the past for HVs, and a couple other authors did the same kind of thing. The problem with all those, even though they were pretty big creations and everything, is HVs are inherently pretty fast in comparison to like the size of a building, or like, you know, something that you could fit in size class, and they need a lot of open area. I mean, I think to run in most places, where you know, the turns and everything were so tight on the other stuff that the HVs would literally, if you're trying to like actually race, it would fly right off the track, and You just didn't have the space that you needed for a proper HV race in the game, because the HVs are just inherently too fast, and when you're actually in an HV, they your perspective is a little different too. Like here, let me hop in this thing. This thing's kind of a lowrider, but yeah, like if I was trying to fly around a track and there was like a turn right there, you gotta go so slow around there, and especially if there's other people on the track, it's just there's no room. If you hit something too fast, you'll like leap over it and you'll be flying way in the air, and then you don't even know where the track is anymore, and it's just weird. So I wanted to build like an off-road track, and I don't want to build like one creation for it. I want to build like little things that you can place into the natural environment, and that's basically I wanted to build some pieces here and then test them out in this mountainous region over here to see how they work. So a bunch of these creations aren't going to take very long, but I did want like a start finish larger open like sign, and that's why I wanted to test structural integrity to see how far away I could have support beams for it. And then I'm going to need some like arrow signs that you'd be passing on the way, as well as checkpoints, which would probably be smaller than the start finish line, as well as some ramps and things like that for a little jumping action. And then I would go around and I'd have those different pieces, and you could add in some detailed pieces, maybe some, you know, grandstand bleachers or whatever, advertising, make it look like a racetrack. And then place those throughout actual terrain, and in the end result, it would actually be done on the Anvil server where the Anvil city is on the same planet, but not. I don't want it in range of the planet to cause any frame rate issues from the huge city that's there. So it would be away. It would be several kilometers away at least from the city, so you wouldn't have to deal with the frame rate issues of the city, and this shouldn't affect it either. Hopefully you won't have any frame rate issues with the type of track I'd want to do. It'd be probably pretty low intensity for causing frame rate issues, I would say. But I haven't quite started it yet. Now, one other thing I did is, and I'm still a little disturbed about this. I brought this up in the live stream yesterday as well, and I retrofitted the Empyrion Scorpion, which basically what happened is I spawned in, or we spawned this in the game, and I took it out, and this thing, I mean, the whole chassis was built so it could do maximum HV speed, which is 50 ms, in all directions. And I was using these Reforged only big thrusters that it had. And actually, here, hold on, let me spawn in I updated the blueprint, never mind. Well, it had a different part for this before. It was using a CV large thruster, which is 2x2x4 in size. That part was changed to a different model. It's technically the same size, however, it's kind of actually, the original model was 5 blocks long, so that's why it's sticking out through another block on the sides here. And I wanted to update this tank to make it, so it works again, because what happened is the tank was supposed to do 50 in all directions, and I spawned it in game, and it was sluggish. It was doing somewhere, I think, between 28 and 30 ms in all directions, and just felt a lot slower. I'm like, oh, that must be that item ID part number. So I came into Creative here, and I wanted to quickly update the workshop version of it, and I was just going to swap out the thruster models, or the thrusters with the newer part number, which you can see here under HVs is this one here, this large plasma thruster. Now this used to use a CV thruster model, and now it's using a SV thruster model. So I thought everything would have been all right, one-to-one quick 5-minute update, and tags good on the workshop again. But then I realized it had this model. Then I made the mistake thinking that, well, this is 5 blocks wide, so I can no longer put these little vent things on there. And the model itself, since it doesn't really line up to the edges like the other ones did, it kind of looked a little worse. Um, but then I realized that it is actually only 4 blocks, and you can put the vents back on, although the thruster sticks out right through those vents. I don't know how that's going to work out. But I can still I can get by with the looks on this to update the blueprint. The problem is what also changed is these thrusters don't have the same thruster power as the other ones do. Or so now with the updated thrusters on here, give this some fuel here in a minute. Um, it doesn't do the 50 yet. It's still more sluggish, and it does a maximum speed of about, I don't know, average cruising speed of about 37. Um, and it doesn't handle as good. It doesn't have the power that it once did. And no longer can hit max speed, which totally blows this design. Now I heard a little bit that it might have just been a typo or something that was missed in the update with specs, because I guess I was expecting the replacement thruster due to the ID number to be the same specifications as the thruster that it was supposed to be replacing. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's a different model thruster with different CPU and different specifications. So I hope that gets corrected and they get balanced back to the same specifications they once had, um, which would make this work again. Because right now I don't know what to do with the tank. Um, it took a while. This wasn't like a really long build, but I put a lot of time into making the chassis, and I had to have qualifications. And one of the big qualifications of this is it needed to do max HV speed in all directions. That's why I have these thrusters so balanced. There's 2 of these types of thrusters per side of this creation to give you like equal speed and maneuverability in literally all directions at maximum speed. And then I had to balance out the weight so I could achieve that. Use whatever available CPU I had left over to add as many guns and things as I possibly could on it. And I was pretty happy with the tank. I thought it worked really well for its cost and size and all that stuff. But now it doesn't move the way it's supposed to move, and I don't know what to do with it. I could update the blueprint on the workshop with this one, but I kind of want to wait and see what happens with these thrusters if they stay this way. Um, which I would never use them again if they do. Um, Honestly, I won't. I mean, I don't even want to build another tank at this point in time ever again. It's just I'm kind of discouraged with this, and I don't even know. Like this here, I think it's kind of it's neat, and this would be a neat creation. I would say early to mid game in Reforged Eden, but beyond that, it's like I don't know what you do with tanks anymore or HVs. Sort of a Scout SV. I have no idea what you do with SVs anymore. I mean, you can make an SV miner that could be practical for a little bit of time until you acquire a CV miner, and then there's no point for the SV miner. I don't really believe there's any point for combat SVs. Um, in game. I don't really find a role. This will still outperform any SP I can possibly think of that doesn't require a bunch of quantum cores. Um, and ultimately, if you're just going by the numbers and like overwhelming force on POIs, which I'd prefer to do anyway. That's kind of a standard military thing. Is I won't use SV or an HV for POI combat. I would use a CV because they're going to do better. When it comes down to other aspects that these things can do, like obviously HVs can mine, and that's great, and there is a use for HV miners, but they're, again, I would consider that a fairly early game thing now, because again, when you get a CV miner, you're going to really find that your HV miner is pointless. It's so much slower at mining anything versus what you can do with a CV miner that you're just not going to want to do it. It's like 10 times slower at least. Um, so basically, a problem, I think, is there just isn't any practical function for much in HVs or SVs. Besides, like a SV could be early game scout. You could make an SV miner. Um, Again, it's invalid as soon as you have a CV version. Um, you can make a tank and you can attack POIs, but again, that's invalid once you have a CV that has some turrets that can fire on the ground and enough of them. Um, and so, as in storage, again, SVs and HVs alike, the amount of storage you can get on one of these versus its cost and the amount of thrusters and performance you need to move that storage, it's cheaper and easier to have a little micro CV um, to do the storage, and it can carry much more. Like example of that, like let me bring in the biggest storage SV I've made to date. And that's the thing. It's just like I have no plans to make any new ones because there's no point in it. And same thing with like my whole Merc line. You know, I used to really like these SVs, and I built a lot of them. And you notice how long it's been since I put out like an SV or any kind of new Merc or anything. It's because they just what's the point on them? You know, it's like they don't do anything worthwhile anymore. So why have them? And I hate that as a person who likes to build stuff. I hate being stripped away from valid builds. You know, I want to build stuff that works and has a function. Typically, I mean, once in a while, I just go in the artsy direction, but a lot, you know, most of the builds that I get most excited about are something that, you know, actually is something I want in the game to use for a reason because it does something really well and I want that function in the game. Like okay, Transit CH5. This thing, you know, most amount of storage I put on a SV, and it's literally full of a lot of storage. It has it has two 32K storage bins on it, and it's rocking all these big thrusters, uh, so it can move that storage. The ship itself isn't terribly heavy in all comparison. It's made out of steel, and needed all these other thrusters. Granted, this was vanilla made a while ago, so maybe it's got more thrusters than it needs at this point. I don't know. But once you would weigh this up, it was able to move its 64K cargo. And something like this has a build time of 7 hours and 5 minutes and requires all this stuff to build this thing. And this isn't even, I don't think this is, did I update this CPU wise? No, it's just totally murdering. Well, maybe this can work, but it doesn't have all the CPU cores for reforging in it to make that part work. Um, but if you look at the cost of that versus the dwindly 64K storage it can move, you could spawn a CV that probably has less than a 2 hour build time that can do at least 320K storage, and just do it so much better in a smaller footprint. Well, maybe not a smaller footprint, but it's just again no point to it. So, like that's another thing. The transit line of the three transit ships, the CH1, 3, and 5. No plans to make any new ones because why? What are you gonna do with it? Um, so I have a big problem with the game, and like it just sort of alienated like like probably 2/3 of the potential builds that someone would want to make for it that would actually do something worthwhile in game. Um, and so now it's just kind of like, and it's just like thinking of new CVs. Like you just build a CV for everything. You CV for mining, CV for storage, CV for combat, CV for ground combat, CV for everything. And your best CVs are going to be made out of Xeno material because they're the strongest and lightest. And it's just like where it's come to at this point with this kind of mechanics. It's really in a lot of aspects, not every aspect, but a lot of aspects, it is really, really bad for us builders, which is it's kind of discouraging. That the fact that so many of the things that people like to build, like I can honestly say that Crazy Z certainly prefers building SVs over all other types of creations, and I feel really bad for him because SVs just almost have no role in the game right now, functional role, for gameplay. They just don't, and that's got to be a downer. It's like, oh, I can make this beautiful CV and I can really like engineer it well to like do something. Maybe it'd be storage or put a bunch of turrets on it and make it a combat thing or just have some other kind of creation SV. But it's like, not many people care because they don't do much worthwhile in game, and it's why I don't want to build any SVs. Oh man, I missed a module. Did I miss a module? No, I looked at this module already. Never mind. I got all excited. I'm like, oh, another module. But so I kind of wanted to just kind of bring that to perspective. Now, solutions for this. Obviously, the guys behind Reforge Eden are trying to make the game, better all around. I mean, and much of what they did has. I mean, it's got so much more content in it, and it's a big task on their part. It's a lot of work on their part. I definitely respect what they're doing. It's kind of adding a lot of life to the game. Now, of course, ultimately, I wish the devs actually would have done this. But I'm glad that the other guys are, and that's really, really, really cool. But the problem is I think there's some serious balance issues with things. Like, as much as I like the Interfector in its capability of decimating ground POIs without a thought, the fact that I could build that and it works is kind of a problem. I don't know how else to put that because that eliminates the need for HVs and SVs to do that kind of work. Because the CV is going to do it way, way better. I mean, not even on the same level, better. And so, and I could build a much cheaper CV that could still decimate POIs than what the Interfector is. I was just trying to find that in my list here. I guess I have a hard time talking and like clicking on buttons at the same time. I don't know what it is. Like this thing, yeah, you fly this over a POI, and yeah, it's got like 60 plus, ground firing turrets on here, plus a T2 shield, and it's made of Xeno, and there's nothing a POI is going to do to this thing. It's going to get kiboshed. Now the tank is cheaper, and that's why I say these have some use in early to mid-game-ish, but after that, if you want to do POIs, you're going to have better. Especially by the time, it's basically, right now, it's a race to get a CV miner in gameplay. Once you have the CV miner, your resources are going to come in unbelievably fast in comparison to what you were able to do prior. Therefore, these crazy big builds are perfectly in range for you to use. And I kind of, I mean, I like it. I like CV mining. I think that's, it's pretty flawless in game, and there's a lot of bugs in other places in the game, but I haven't really found any with mining, which is good. But I don't know. I don't know what to do about the balance issues. I want there to be definite use for HVs and SVs in the game. I want there to be motivation for us builders to want to actually build those for a particular reason of function, and there just virtually isn't any. And I don't know, maybe just some brainstorming on everybody's part. If anybody has some good ideas on what you could do with with these kinds of creations to make them valid in the game, where people would want them, or or you're really happy about having you spawn in this really expensive SV or HV, and it does something really good for you in game. That's great, but I can't really think of any the way things are set up. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, and it's like I feel very impaired on building. There's so many types of creations I'd like to do, but I find no purpose to doing them anymore, and it's kind of like sucking a lot of life out of me. Like, I'm getting a little tired of just building CVs, and that's really all I've been working on. CV, 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 more CVs. And then I always have to feel guilty every time I, like, what I have the biggest desire to have in game right now is combat oriented CVs. But then I have to feel guilty because, well, this is not going to perform near as good because it's not built out of Xeno. It has a little Xeno in it, but not much, and it would do better if it was Xeno, but it would look like utter crap in comparison to what it looks like now. And I just can't find a balance between anything. It's like I'm damned if I do, if I'm damned if I don't. And I don't know if other authors feel this way too, but it's like it's just I can't. There's just there's no win. There's no like happy medium. Like I don't, you know. So I've been kind of discouraged a lot in building, to be honest. It's just a lot of the things I would want to do and tackle, and it's like in game we've acquired a bunch of like the small quantum cores for the HVs and SVs, like 11 or 12 of them, something like that. And it's like, oh, that'd be really cool. We could build some kind of something HV SV. When we got all this quantum, we could make a really high CPU and like build it bigger and stronger and better than other ones that we've been able to do. And but then it's like, why? What are we gonna do with it when we're done with it? I mean, it could have like 80 guns on it somehow, and it's like, oh, still, uh, I don't know. You know, it's just that's the problem. There's just the way all the mechanics have been geared up in Reforged Eden, which extends the gameplay a lot with the CVs and the combat and the bigger, harder stuff to keep on doing, and the more newer things that are at Reforged Eden only to acquire in game, which certainly expands the gameplay of it. But it really craps on a lot of different kinds of creations that this game was about. Now, originally, when they came up with the tier system, and it actually started with the class size, but we'll just start with the CPU tier. Like, if you had a tier 4 HV or SV, it was considered like your end game thing, right? Like that would be like a top model of that type of creation for the end of the game. But now it's nothing. It's nothing. It's like there is no end game SVs or HVs. They don't have any value that I know of in the game. Beyond early game, I would say early to maybe mid game. But literally, again, best way to play Reforged Eden: gather your resources the best you can, build yourself a CV miner and a place to store a bunch of resources, and go to town as quickly as you can and mine all those asteroids, and you will have a lot of resources quickly, and you can start bringing in big builds that are expensive, and it's not that hard of work really in comparison to like shooting up POIs and stuff. That's takes more, but it's not that hard of work. Like this, the Interfector POIs, I put me on the worst, nastiest planet with the worst POIs in the game, and I won't even bat an eye about it. At least shooting the base defenses down. Going inside those POIs with small arms, that's a different story. That can be quite a bit of fun yet, but or it can be quite miserable depending on the POI. But and your player skills, I will say. But that's kind of where I'm at. I called a writer's block, or but it's like I'm I don't even know what to build anymore. In me, I've been hitting this for probably at least 4 years straight of always having new ideas of stuff to build, and now it's just like, well, sort of like some psycho Xeno Hall psycho combat CV for endgame that I'm not going to like because of all the specifications that you got to build that to make it work right. Um, I don't really have any desire to build anything new right now. I just don't know what to do unless like that's why I wanted to maybe do an HV track, because then I don't have to worry about any of this stuff and I can just kind of build something. Um, like it sounds to me, it sounds very fun. Like if I had like give me like 10 quantum cores in a HV or a SV, it'd be fun. I could build something hopefully kind of neat and pretty tough a lot of guns and stuff on it. Make it a little bigger than I've been, and that could be kind of fun. But then again, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and I won't know what to do with it. It's like, oh, well, do you want to spawn that in game? Well, I'll spawn it in and try it out once, but other than that, what the heck am I going to do with it? It's just kind of really a big waste of time. Even with those kind of qualifications on it, with like 10 quantum cores, that's a lot of quantum cores, to put in one of those things. But it's still, to me, a waste of time. Um, so yeah, if you guys got some thoughts, you can leave some comments on my stuff too. But ultimately, Vermilion and oh man, I go second name. Well, anyway, the authors of Reforged Eden. I mean, of course, try to give them some input too, as maybe some ideas on how to restore the life of HVs and SVs in the game. Bases have their function. Yeah, so I'm not so worried about bases at all. I mean, space stations are cool. Some ground bases can be cool. They do storage well. They have unique options such as furnaces, um, and things and repairing CVs that only bases can do. So I'm not so worried about bases. There's other base designs I could have, but with the galaxy the way it is and how the teleporters actually work in reality, I just don't. That's another thing. I'm not really thrilled about building bases. Again, I consider it an early game thing, early to mid game thing. Other than that, the galaxy's kind of big, which is good, but I prefer to be mobile, and that's why the Helios was created, to be kind of a platform for mobility and bringing all your stuff with you. Of course, there's a couple functions like furnaces and CV repair it cannot do to the limits, but then you have this like little cheap disposable spawner base that can do CV repairs, or maybe even spawn in something here and there for furnaces when you need them, and then rip it apart when you're ready to move on again, and then you never have to come back there. Um, anyway, that's about all I've got for today. Maybe I will get back into trying to do some like build tutorials on stuff. But I got to get some energy back up on this stuff. It's kind of been dragging me out a little bit, where it's like kind of like stuck, like don't know what to build anymore, And I never wanted to be in that boat where it's like, eh, see these really cool ships or have these really cool ideas for things, and it's like, no, 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 that's not, that wouldn't work. No, can't do that. No, that doesn't have any function in it, and that's a problem. Maybe if I just ditch that idea that it's got to be something worthwhile in game and just go for the artsy side of things, maybe it could restore a little life in things for me, but I won't feel right with that. Like here, I'll show you oh god, what did I call it? Oh man, I built a base a while back, and it was really purely built around looks and not function. Um, and I called it some weird name that was in Latin, and now I can't remember the name of it. Crap. Good, when you build so many things, you start to forget some of these, especially when you really start going off the deep end trying to find new names to call things. And one of the happiest decisions I ever made right now, although it was brought up, why do you keep on calling all your SVs Mercs? I'm happy I did that because I didn't have to individually name every one of them. Yeah, this thing, it's hard to pronounce. This one I built for looks way back in the day. Now I got kind of shredded with decal positions, and some of the textures got misaligned, and this used to look different, and some other things took place that kind of screwed it up a little bit. But this was like building something for looks. This is also before you could do custom colors, and it didn't have a lot of the newer blocks and a lot of other things. But yeah, built for looks. As in a base, it's very expensive and really crappy for actual base function. I mean, it literally you don't have you got this dinky little hangar in comparison to the size of the base with this little dinky hangar door, and it's got little compartments around and stuff. It's better served as like a POI than it would be an actual functionable base. But it was fun to build because it was artsy and I could like do something different in styling and experiment with shapes and stuff. But in reality, in game, the best functioning bases that I probably have made are the worst ones to look at. um, like Waypoint Compound, for instance. This one was purely based around function in game, like defense and there, there's something else in the way, really. Oh, it won't collapse anyway. So like this one, older creation, all about function. It's essentially a box. I try to make that box as pretty as possible. Well, as pretty as I knew how to do. Mix up some blocks on the wall, give it a stuff. It's also made out of concrete. I was kind of complaining about the concrete textures then. I still don't like them. It still doesn't look as good as if I could have just used the steel, but it made more sense to build the base out of concrete, as in whatnot. And it's all set up for function. It's a decent hangar thing. It has extra room for deconstructors. This is before the new LCDs came into play, and this was a short-lived trick that was discovered before they added in the projector LCDs in the game. Maybe some people doing this kind of thing through LCD tricks. This was a pain in the butt to do, by the way. Absolute pain in the butt to do. I had to put these things in somewhere in here. I forget where the yeah. Oh no, it's actually using this LCD to do that projection. But by increasing the size to ridiculous amounts and having this placed directly over where you wanted it, you could push down what it was showing off the physical LCD and project it over something else. But now, obviously, you wouldn't do it this way because there's projector LCDs in the game, which have options and do a much better job than what this could possibly do. But this was fun. It was an experiment. It's the only base that, or only creation I made that used this kind of LCD tech, I guess you could say. And that tech got outdated like right after I made this base. So, but anyway, that's, if you're going for function, your square boxes with the most amount of room are probably your best thing. Something like this is just not. And that's the problem with the game. That's a constant conflict between building. You can build artsy or you can build functionable. But trying to mesh the two together is becoming. Well, it's always been a little difficult, and especially now with Reforged cheating on the qualifications of the sealing the parts, trying to use as much Xeno as you can. It's just making it all the worse to me, and not to mention the a proper combat CV for like late game in there is like basically filled. I've seen different methods, and there was another method of the ship that would go up and down really fast. I can avoid fire with a decoy up there. I thought that was a pretty slick idea because it got kind of it didn't follow that same scheme that I'm seeing like all the other big combat CVs doing, and that is basically having a big front structure one way or another just filled up with layers and layers and layers and layers of like blocks or blocks, so it just keeps on taking all the damage there, and your guns in the back shoot. This one's kind of based around that principle of design, where this is like your decoy area. It's got the cheap turrets up here and on the front sides of the ship, and as you go back into the ship, like this row over here now gets into much more expensive plasma turrets all the way across. And then beyond that, you have another big row of rocket launchers out back here, but it keeps these farther away, so the AI shoots at the stuff up here first. And maybe if you bury parts inside of here, like I left a little bit of room to do that, if you wanted to, I guess, put in some kind of decoy part here, but I didn't know if that was going to be necessary. Um, um, or not. I'm thinking the AI is going to shoot there anyway, even if I didn't have a decoy there. But that's left to be said because I want to see what actually happens in game. On the inner factor, it was like I could have put in a decoy here. In fact, I've left. If you do use this creation, these inside compartments here, I left largely hollow. It is walled off. So you have like a bunch of blocks up front, and then there's an open space which you could put something here or fill it in with more Xeno blocks. And then there's another open space over here with another wall. And then once you get past that second wall with the kind of got a double block layer here, you actually start getting into the critical components of the ship. So, but you do have like several layers of stuff before that, and you can make that stronger by filling that in with more blocks. I just, I didn't know if it was going to be needed or not. From what I've tested so far, in my play experience at least, on the abuse I put this thing through, I've never came close to losing this or to have penetration through all this area, even stock with the open hollow areas in there. Um, so that's kind of how that came to be. Anyway, this video's going on long enough. I've been ranting about everything. Yeah, next week I'm trying to think of some like building stuff that I could do that would be fun, and I'm thinking like building like this racetrack thing. Probably isn't the most educational thing because they're quite simple creations in comparison to a lot of the other stuff. And I want to think of something new and neat to work on, but I'm kind of like clueless right now. I don't really I really don't know what to do. Uh, at least with functional stuff. Maybe if I was just doing some block tutorials and we can make some neat looking designs, or maybe even like dial back into like trying to do a POI or something. But literally, a problem I've got with POIs, I enjoy POIs, building them now and then. You get a lot of creative freedom, I guess you can say, in the design and the structure, and you can go off and break all the rules and do things totally unique, which I like. But then again, it's not something I put up on the workshop. Videos about the POIs, people don't really seem to care about much. And there's just, it's kind of neat. If you send it to the right people, maybe it could be added in Reforged Eden. Um, maybe it could even be added into the main game as another POI. So I mean, there are some things there about it, but on a personal thing, it's a huge amount. It's a huge time sink. It doesn't do anything for me at all, literally. So that's why I just, it's fun to build, but I don't really, it always seems like I build a bunch of quite a few of these Kreil POIs. I got one I never actually finished, and then that was it, done. Never seen them. I haven't even found them in game, ever. So it's kind of demotivational to put time into doing that kind of thing too. I put a lot of time into that Scar Citadel POI, and that was a big thud. Nothing, as far as I know. I even sent it to the Elion people and never got a response to it. So that was just, it was like, well, that's it. I'm not going to do any more POIs. But now I'm run out of like literally everything else to build too. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with the game. It's just like, I don't know. I want to enjoy it. I want to get into the creation I'm building. I do like this new ship a lot. I regret even having the little bit of Xeno I do have on here, but I think I can pull off what's in there, especially if I play with the textures a little bit more, maybe. Um, but yeah, I don't want to build. I'm not even at the point where I want to build another combat bigger CV with these kind of qualifications. I don't like the sealing the parts things. I don't want to build like another um, ships like the Persis and all these other my main CVs that I made through time. I try to display parts and engineering and stuff, and now it's just like, no, glass, block everything off, put glass in front of it. It's just taking away whatever is left of creative freedom, to and it's just again another just kind of slap in the face. Like, no, no, build things to make this game look like it's like a 20-year-old voxel game or something, and scrap like all its good qualities of building to accomplish this new goal of this combat stuff. And I don't know. I'm not really on sync with that entirely. I think it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to put so many guns and run around with a ship like this and shoot the crap out of stuff. But it's just, there's a lot of other things that are bugging me. Now, I have heard that the Exploding Reforged Eden is going to be dialed back. Well, we'll see how that pans out, because I don't, that's the thing. If I want to build another, like what I consider high more of a quality kind of ship for appearance and looks, and immersive inside and engineering areas and stuff, I don't want to glass everything off. I don't want to do this. I don't want to build the damn thing out of Xeno. I don't want to have 30 rows of combat steel or Xeno blocks on the front of it. I just all these qualifications I don't want to build to. I just think it's really sucky for a builder that has to deal with all that when they really just want to make something that looks nice. And of course they want it to try to work good, but you're at constant conflict between the two, and it's demotivational. Well, anyway, that's it for me today, and you guys have yourself a good weekend. I may get on the stream again today with Excalibur, and we've been trying to get enough quantum cores to bring this thing in, and it takes quite a bit. CPU has to hit 4.3 million CPU with its present loadout to be fully functional, and not like blow generators and stuff because of lack of CPU. So we've been trying to do that, and it's a bit of a grueling process. I've had way too many bugs in combat in the game. Literally like 4 out of 5 times stuff bugs out and goes wrong, and ghost ships and other issues. So I think there's a major issue somewhere along the game, or maybe with so many turrets and people flying around and so many drones and stuff going on that that the game itself can't handle it, and then it messes up. And that's literally happens like most of the time. So I'm kind of like even discouraged to run around and fly around in something like this, because I might be blown away by a ship that, or my ship might just shoot at something that I don't see at all, and then I'm getting hit by another ship that's not even there, that not visible to me, that's blasting me from the back, and I can't see it, and or you shoot it and it doesn't take any damage because it bugged out because of that. It's just been ongoing with that, and it's like that's kind of discouraging too. But that's that would probably be more of a core game engine thing, and I think Reforged Eden is just pushing the core game engine much more than what the vanilla version of the game does, and that's probably where these problems are coming to play. Or maybe there's just a bug in the main game too. It's hard to say. You would think that it would be scalable, and that your coding in there could handle more. It just would cause frame rate issues. I can see that, but I wouldn't think it really technically should bug out the way it is. But there's a serious bug that's seriously affecting space combat, which is, yeah, hopefully it gets resolved. Anyway, see you later.